1960, Egyptologists uncovered one of the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries in the history of humanity.
I can tell you that the tablet changed the way the world looked.
The pieces all fit together, do they not? Huh?
You see, we were absolutely convinced that we'd made a tremendous discovery.
What I was about to hear, it was something very, very big.
This also marked the beginning of one of the greatest secrets ever kept by a Western government. After 20 years of prudent silence, George Widmack, a specialist in archaeology and a scientific journalist, agreed to speak for the first time about his research and to tell us how an apparently routine documentary became an issue of state.
Hapitmothep. It's all in here. It all began when CBS, the network, contacted me, a friend, a producer who works at CBS. He asked, could I shoot a documentary on certain Egyptologists, including Bill Stanton, who had written a bestseller at the time about the subject. In particular, I wanted him to tell me everything he knew about KV-32, Kings Valley 32, which is, what, a tomb. And I realized rapidly, this documentary, this information, what he knew, what I was about to hear, it was something very, very big.
George Widmack interviewed Bill Stanton on March 5th, 1983. This was an interview that would change his life.
I can remember it as if it were yesterday. You see, we'd just gone there only to gather a few samples from the tomb of Tia. I was the one, by the way, I was the one who found the opening.
In the tomb of Tia, he found an entry into a hidden funerary chamber.
Whose tomb was it?
Well, all we know is that it was the tomb of someone called Hapitmothep, but there's no reference to him in Egyptian history, so we don't know who he was. What's really important is not who it was, but what we found. This tablet had partial inscription that we could understand. The rest was illegible. And that inscription said, "How can you say you love me when your heart is not with me?" This is the third, and then it breaks off into all kinds of, not gibberish, but symbols that are just completely unintelligible.
It's true that at the time, in the field, many Egyptologists, their knowledge was, let's face it, it was limited. Because, why? Because certain texts had not yet been translated. The technology, research, many things had not been discovered yet.
But Stanton was convinced that the tablet was something special. He gave Widmack an invaluable account. Tape recordings from 1961.
I've never seen anything like it. Maybe it is a dialect, or some unknown people's language, to have hieroglyphics above and below, and this mumbo-jumbo in the middle. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
It's at that precise moment in time that Bill met Sophie.
Sophie Glockenstein is a biologist from Zurich. She uncovered one of the tablet's first clues.
Sophie Glockenstein, who was partners with Maurice Wilkins, researching the structure of DNA, genetics, and immediately, no sooner did she lay eyes on the tablet, that she realized that there was a definite parallel between her work on DNA structure and what was written on the tablet.
What she told me absolutely blew my mind. It made me feel I was Indiana Jones in that film that just came out. What she told me was that the inscription on the tablet was not a text at all. It was a code.
In 1961, Bill Stanton gave his precious discovery to Sophie Glockenstein. She took it to her laboratory for analysis. What she discovered was beyond anything she could have imagined.
Das könnte die wichtigste Entdeckung dieser Hälfte des 20. Jahrhunderts sein. Es wäre zu kompliziert, uns im Einzelheiten zu verlieren, aber ich bin fast überzeugt, dass wir die unvollkommene Karte des menschlichen Genoms da haben. Diese mit 1500 vor Jesus Christus datierte Platte zeigt vielleicht einen wichtigen Fortschritt für die Wissenschaft.
The Human Genome Map was not deciphered until 1993. Is it possible that the ancient Egyptians were as advanced as we are today? The scientific community of the early 60s didn't think so. Sophie Glockenstein was considered eccentric and eventually was pushed to the sidelines. As for Stanton, he was banished from his profession.
You see, we were absolutely convinced that we'd made a tremendous discovery. But no one would listen to us. The High Council of Egyptology couldn't have cared less about Hapitmothep. In fact, they looked upon it as a historical anecdote.
The tablet of Hapitmothep was then stored away, like piece HAP 35KV, in the archives at the University of Ohio. But George Widmack would find more surprises. He quickly understood that he was treading in a minefield.